Companies think often that they have motivation problems or productivity problems. Really, what they have is a pay time problem. They have an alignment of their rewards with what the company's trying to achieve. And when we get things into alignment, the productivity and the behaviors, the attitudes, the culture, it all improves automatically.
Hello, and welcome back to Work But Make It Human. I'm your host, Jim Mayer. Today, our guest is Dr. Chuck Benetti's. Rhymes with spaghetti. Sounds like and spelled like Benetti's. Dr. Chuck, we're going to talk about when incentive systems help and when they harm humans at work. We're going to talk about what it really means to align incentives and shared outcomes. We're going to talk about the gap between productivity theory and everyday workplace experiences. Are we in the right chat right now? All right, good. Just wanted to make sure we're both in the right place. And the icebreaker that I ask all of my guests on this show is, what is one of the most asinine or surprising things that you've seen in the workplace that's when it comes to incentives and things of that nature?
The biggest mistake companies make in trying to motivate people is they don't give them the specifics. And it's as though management can speak two languages. If I come to you and I say, boy, our scrap rate went from 2 to 5 and we really need to do something. You go to the employees and you remember those Charlie Brown Christmas specials and they'd have the teacher at the front of the class. Remember how she sounded?
Yeah. Womp, womp, womp. Yeah.
That's what they hear. But if you go to them and you go, okay, last week we had that big job and our scrap rate went from 6 to 10 and you have their complete attention now. You know, what are you talking about? It was the same setup. I worked on that job. No, you're wrong. The point is they need the specifics. And when you give them the specifics, you can see it in their eyes. They want you to stop talking so they can go do it. That's what they needed. You just gave it to them. Let's go. So the craziest thing they do is they try and talk in general and think they're communicating with their people and they've excited them. And the people are just, oh man, this is so frustrating because I'd like to perform. But what do I do specifically? I got to go back to my job now, and what do I do?
Yep. Got it. So you've started a company, an organization. And what's the name of that organization, Chuck?
Gainsharing Incorporated. Yeah. I'm a Gainsharing specialist. I've done Gainsharing for my whole career.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So walk us through what Gainsharing is before I get into my next question.
Gainsharing is an approach, a tool, a management system that companies use to get everybody pulling in the same direction and have their rewards tied to that overall goal. And then also tell them what they need to do along the way to hit that goal. Because when the pay is aligned with the company goals, the performance and the behavior and everything just automatically improve.
I love it. So what's the... And this is why I set it up with that question. What's the first day like when you walk into a manufacturer and they say, yes, we want to launch Gainsharing or launch this framework? What's the first day look like?
What's the first day look like? Well, we start with the numbers because the most important thing with a Gainsharing system or a pay-for-performance system is to make sure that we don't pay bonuses until we're making what we think is good money. Let's just call that 5% operating income. And I want to make sure that if I'm paying more bonus, the company's doing better so that we're all in the same boat now. And the first thing is to find the factors that drive the profits. So I take a company's P&L and I'm looking for the factors that have this relationship when that thing changes, like material costs. So when material costs month to month change, does that influence the bottom line? And whenever I talk about this, it reminds me of a story that's told about Michelangelo carving the David. He said, how did you carve? He says, well, I got the statue, I got the big piece of marble and I took off everything. I can't do an Italian accent. They took off everything that was not the statue. But the point is that I take the company's P&L and then I'm looking for this relationship. And like Michelangelo, if that relationship isn't there, then I whittle it away. And you end up with the 80-20 main drivers of the bottom line for that company. And what I really like about that approach, I've done this, probably 1,000 times, certainly hundreds of times, is what you come to is a perfect fit for that company. Whatever craziness they have in their numbers, that we're seasonal and I make a lot of money on this and I don't on that and all that, it's all in those numbers. So when you find these things, the most important thing is to make sure that when the rewards, the gain sharing is better, the company's doing better. And when you have this, man, we are all pulling in the same direction. And it's always kind of a chuckle with the clients over time. In the beginning, they're thinking about paying the bonuses and the money and all that. And after a while, they think, no, that's just an after effect. They know that as they go through week by week, if the gain sharing numbers are looking good, the bottom line is going to be looking good. And they get nervous when it's not, because they know, oh man, when we're halfway through next month and I get the P&L, it's not going to look good because it's focused on the fundamentals. It's kind of like working out, right? Whoever you are, if you go to the gym and you do whatever basic exercises and you eat pretty well, right? And you're going to do, the fundamentals never lose their effectiveness. So it's the same thing. In a company, we're finding those, and you start with that basic thing, and it never loses its validity or its urgency. And actually, I have a company that I've worked with, it's been 15 years, maybe longer than that. And they lost their numbers person to health issues. And okay. one brother's looking at the other and he says, well, we have the gain sharing. And as long as we keep those numbers positive, we're going to make it through this. So it has that fundamental relationship there. So that's the starting point. And that is like the foundation to a building. Once you get the foundation there, you can build different buildings on that. But if you don't have that, so that's the first thing to do. So usually we start with the numbers. It's just a couple people, often the president and the numbers person, and go forward from there.
So what's a common misconception about pay for performance that is just categorically wrong?
That it needs to be a lot of work. To work it needs to be simple. And it needs to be very focused on the fundamentals and all that. And it almost always involves numbers that they already have. Like when you're looking at labor productivity, you already have your labor numbers. And whatever business you have, I don't care if you're a car repair, like a body shop working out of like a garage with 4 guys, the basics, right? That this job has to start on this date and it needs to be done on this date. So you already have the basic information that you need to do the really important things to set up your goals and where you are. Now, of course, we can always improve over time, but it needs to be simple and focused on the basic things. I think that a good idea is a shortcut to what I have to do anyway. So really setting up the whole system is having the people say, well, this is what we need to do. And here's a shorter, more direct, reliable way to get what I have to do. So then you don't have to police them to do it. Why would they take the old complicated way, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really what it's all about, is how do you set up a system that focuses on the basics of the company that really is the most short, direct, reliable way to get whatever result you're looking for. And then the performance just naturally goes there.
Yeah. So you said you've been working on gain sharing your entire career. One of your statements that stuck with me from our pre-call is that people do what they're incentivized to do. And so how did you come to that insight early in your career to create this framework?
Well, I have a doctorate in work psychology, and so it kind of started there. And Freud, right? He said a lot of crazy things, but he said to really be healthy and successful in our lives, we need to love and we need to work. And I think he just hit that spot on. And when you look at people's motivation and all that, you really want to look at what they do. When you look at what somebody does, you can see what's really motivating them. And people do what they do to get what they want. So it's just that fundamentally simple.
Yeah. So under the gain sharing model, how do you balance those profitability goals with the human side of the frontline employee experience?
Stop me if I'm not getting your question right. But we need to make sure that those business fundamentals are there. And so that's really the numbers side of things. And the other side is the people side. And so from here, starting from the numbers, then we say, okay, so what do I need to do today, this week, to hit the basic numbers to make this relationship work? And then it gets down to the specifics, like we talked about earlier. The people want to know, okay, let's just make up some numbers here, that I need overall production of like 200,000 a week, because we need to have like an $800,000 month. I'm just to use those numbers. So then the people want to know, okay, 800 a month. Do we have 800,000? Yeah, we do. We have that on the books. The customers are expecting it. Yeah. So we have the work. Well, what does that translate into? Well, here you go. Here's the big pieces. This needs to start here and that needs to finish there. That means this week, this is what we need. And then down to, so what do I need to do today? You got to translate this basic relationship into the specifics that they can relate to. And then you're playing ball. And like I said earlier, then they want you to stop talking so they can go do it. And it puts the management really in such a great spot, because then they can be the supportive leadership, saying, well, if you have trouble on that, like you can't find that tool that was supposed to be there, or we're running out of that material, or they can help solve the problems on the way, and they don't have to police the performance and making sure the people aren't, blah blah blah. And it's odd that so many of the problems with people that companies have get straightened out when their rewards, what they get paid to do, congratulated for, and all that, are lined up with what the company wants. Then away we go. The performance and the behaviors improve automatically. They just disappear. It's so much fun.
Are there any instances where gain sharing is not an appropriate solution for an organization?
You have really good questions here. Okay, so it's a good fit for any company that has a P&L and people. So I don't know what doesn't fit into that, right? But that covers a lot. So in terms of who doesn't it fit for, it's really a management attitude thing. Really, historically, and I've done all kinds of work, on what's worked over time and who's done what and all this. It's a good fit for management, for owners and all that are excited about their business, and they want everybody else to be as excited as they are. Sometimes, you have people look at labor as a cost. Something to be reduced and avoided, and they don't understand. It's just they don't have that respect for the people. It's a machining company, and the owner used to be a machinist. He started off, his dad started the company, and he swept the floors, and then you get the idea. He can look everybody in the eye, and he understands how they see the world. He's them. Yeah. He's just sitting in a different chair. It's like they're shoulder to shoulder. Now, anyone's ahead of each other or above each other, that's where it's really a good fit, because then it all comes together. Yeah. It's like, here's what we're trying to do. Here's where we are. This is what went well. This didn't go well. Here's what that fix is going to be. And next time we won't hit that little bump in the road again. It's just too much fun for them, because now we're all rolling together.
Yeah. And I mean, I talk with companies that I go visit about rowing in the same direction. I talk with them about, ways to improve that employee experience that their employees have. I had a comment from an owner not too long ago. It's been within the last month, Chuck, that they wish that their employees cared as much as they did. And I could see gain sharing being a route for that owner to then feel like their employees care as much as they do, because they're incentivized to care, right? Am I off base in that?
Yeah, the owner has a skin in the game, right? And he's getting all kinds of feedback that other people don't get from the bank, blah, 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 blah. And if you put the people in the same situation, that they have skin in the game and they're getting feedback, it all starts to change. And then the other thing that I find really exciting and all that folks don't really talk about much, people want to be part of something bigger than themselves.
Yes.
Christmas, we had visitors, and I live in Indianapolis, and we went to a Colts game. And I was just taken aback by, oh, look at this. So all year long, we all live here in Indianapolis, but now we all get together, and we are the Colts, right? There's all these people and they're wearing the blue and they're taking such joy in reacting together and seeing this whole, I don't know how many people are in one of these stadiums. Is it 100,000 or whatever it is,
Yeah, a lot.
People want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They sense that that's just how it is, and they love it when that's visible and happening, So this can be engineered, just like at the Colts game. They do different things to get the crowd going. And if you've ever been to one of these games, you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly
all the things that they engineer. But companies can do this, and they need to do this too. So there's this us feeling. And so part of it is having skin in the game. And then the other is giving feedback. But the other is deliberately talking about how we are all in this together. We need to produce 200,000 this week. And here's what those specific jobs are. And we. And then have the information and all that going in that direction so people can see, okay, I'm picking on the machinists today. We'll just go on that, right? So I run a CNC machine and I'm in the middle of the process and all this. So I got my thing I need to do because these other two guys down the production process here are expecting. So I'm focused on that. But then I want to look up and see, okay, now I'm part of this whole big thing. These guys behind me, they made sure that I had mine when I needed it so I could do. And then now these other people are dependent on, I'm part of this bigger thing. And this is, I get such a kick out of this because, we all wake up someday and go, oh man, I don't want to, I'd rather just, right? And then you think, no, Bob and John, I told them, and they're dependent on, they're waiting. I got to get up and get going here. I'm part of this bigger thing. It's meaningful. It's important. But the point is, this can be engineered. And engineered really is, and I don't have any engineering background or anything. But the point is, if an engineer's building a bridge, right? They know it's this far, and I can put the pieces in place so that bridge will work effectively for they can make it happen. And so the same thing in terms of building this, what we're talking about here, the individual performance, the departmental performance, and then tying into the bigger picture. This can be engineered. And if you don't have it, there's something missing. And you can see what's missing and put it in place, and it works like a telephone number, If you're missing one of the digits, the phone doesn't ring, but you can figure it out and put it in there, and then all of a sudden it can be engineered. And it's so frustrating for me when I hear managers and company owners and all that, and they're frustrated that it's not there. And like that phone number, they may have all the other digits. They may be so close to having this thing really sparkle. And so it can be done directly, just like that engineer puts it in place.
Awesome.
And it really is a lot of fun, too, to be part of that and see the people grab the horns and make it happen because that's who they are and that's how they roll. And it's really exciting.
I love it. Have you ever run across a scenario where the frontline workers are resentful of the gain sharing model?
No. Tell me more about your question.
I'm trying to explore this from every angle. I don't see why they would be resentful of it, but I just trying to explore it from every angle.
Yeah, no. And they speak up about things, rocks in their shoe that have been there for a long time. So you have that. But then it's really powerful when they see that, okay, we listed 4 things and we're going to tear after this first one and we're going to plan to get after the second. They see action taken. Mm-hmm. And then you have the ones that they just can't do. If you go to a group of manufacturing people and ask them what we need, at some point in their answer are going to say, we need this new machine that costs way more than the company. That's just expected. But that's not wrong. That's probably true. But you can't do everything. But they see that they are taking action, and then there's real credibility there. The point is they're listening. I know you've been there yourself, and that's really powerful when people really. And that's kind of interesting with management. Often their fear is telling the people no. They're afraid to tell them no, and that's not the workers' fear. The workers' fear is being ignored.
Yes.
They want to hear yes, they don't want to hear no, but they'll take that. They'll roll with that.
Yeah, I've left plenty of jobs because as somebody who comes up with a ton of ideas and probably only 2% or less are good, great ideas. But I've left jobs because I wasn't even heard on the 2% of good, great ideas. And so I can see that. Chuck, have you run across situations where owners put too high of a target for gain sharing?
When I first started, years ago, that happened more than it has in recent years. They can ruin the party. They can ask for too much. And you were probably, manufacturing back, remember the Lopez days with, God, it makes me think of Chrysler. I'm not sure if he was connected with Chrysler or not. But then there was this thing about 5% improvement every year.
Yeah.
Well, if you run the arithmetic there, you're not going to do that more than 20 years because...
Yes.
And it just becomes impossible. Like labor costs, you're not going to run it to zero, right? So, right. But they can all get together and go, oh, this sounds like a good idea. But I haven't seen that. Now, the way we do the gain sharing and with the formulas, it's really focused on what the acceptable profit levels is. And it's a funny thing, and this gets into big economic issues. In manufacturing, most companies are 5% or less. There's a small percent that are 5 to 10%, and there's a few that are making 12, 13. They ain't gonna talk about it, right? But they're there. But that's small, right? So most are 5-ish or less. So for these people that are if they're at 5, they say, well, if I can get to 6 or 7, that's good. And if we get to 10 or what, I'm sharing a slice of the pizza, baby. But I don't want to be coming in at 2 or 3 and having people looking at me saying, where's my bonus? No. So it focuses on that basic level that doesn't lose its validity. So in terms of asking for too much and all, I really haven't had that problem. And that's gratifying because especially with big companies, that can happen. And because of the political concerns, folks don't buck that. It just, okay, here's what it is. But I haven't had that problem. And that has just been great. I remember PPG was a big client for a long time, did their fiberglass operations throughout the world. And, Pittsburgh's headquarters, and they would kind of chuckle that every year a location would get its budget, right? They would get the numbers that they were supposed to hit. So the end of the year, you paid your people bonuses? Yes, we did. Here's what the budget number was. We beat it, and we shared a end of conversation. Just do it again next year. So that kind of thing's really refreshing. Because the people do need to get a reward. If you make it too hard, you're ruining it. If the people do this, they do what they're supposed to do, and they never get a meaningful reward, then... but it's really interesting that really in most businesses, the big rewards for the business come from leverage on the fixed cost. So if I have 100 employees in my manufacturing thing, I want them to increase that throughput, and I want savings here and there, but that just comes as part of things getting aligned. I want, if I used this 800 number. So I want a bonus when I'm better than that. So I might be looking at 850 to get the engine started. And then I had this, at a plant here in Indiana. I got to be careful what I say or I can identify. But when we started there, they were like $750 a week. And when we got going, the target was like 8.25. And then they were hitting that regularly. So we went to 900. And they just finished their first year, and they are regularly beyond $1 million a year. And this is with fewer employees than they had before because they had folks that they didn't or couldn't replace, and they just found a way because the people knew, okay, if we hire, then that's going to reduce our bonus. You know what? I think we can just find a way. Now, they're a really exceptional group of people, and they do have really, there's this fellow that does the lean improvement and all those kinds of things. So I'll give him credit for being part of, we'll find a way. We'll find a way. Just give me a couple of weeks. And we'll get her done. But that's not uncommon. I mean, that's okay. So back to the rewards for a company, that leverage on the fixed cost is where the real numbers are. In Henry Ford's day, the direct labor slice of the financial pie was really big. And then in recent years, the equipment piece has gotten more expensive, and then the direct labor is smaller. So to continue to squeeze that, it's just not there like it was. But anyhow, really what we want to do, sometimes a manufacturing operations with all these people, it strikes me like an orchestra, you know. I want everybody in harmony playing the same song at this. That's really where the magic is, when I can have people say, okay, I want to focus on what I need to do as an individual and our little group thing also and how it fits in. But then I want to be looking at the total throughput of this.
Yes.
Not just my own little thing. And I've been here for 5 years and I'm expecting my raise and I want more overtime. But really, you know, in defense for that person, that's often the information they're given and how they're treated. They don't have an opportunity. The point is, and this is, okay, can I go off on another little tangent?
Yeah, please do.
With AI and the greater technology in manufacturing, the leverage for the individual to drive the greater result is bigger than it's ever been before. But we need to give them the info and the ways to problem solve and really drive that total throughput. When I was in college, I was a union construction laborer. And if we were going to dig a ditch, you'd probably have 6-8 guys with shovels and we would dig, right? Now, if I got to dig a little ditch, I got 2 guys and a backhoe. I got fewer labor, you know, and more technical. So it's the same thing in manufacturing. But when we were on these jobs, we're going to start digging this ditch, whatever, on this day, and it needs to be finished by this other date because the other guys are going to pour the concrete. So I'm part of this bigger thing. So it's very similar. But if we can tell people about this and have them help us leverage that technology, it's really powerful. And even more so than Gainsharing's had a great history of success. But I think it's really exciting looking forward into the future that we can have folks tied into that bigger picture, both with their rewards and also the information and driving to make it happen, than we've ever had before. And it's really powerful. And I think it's exciting to work in that environment.
Yeah.
It's a whole person kind of challenge experience.
Absolutely. How does a program like this, Gainsharing, how does it affect trust between the front line and the leadership and management teams?
Well, it makes things much more visible. So problems visible, reactions visible. But usually companies that get going with this have their hearts in the right place and they want to take action on these people. That's why on the ideas that they have. And that's why they're getting into this. Now, it's important that they deliberately give this visibility. And companies do this different ways. Sometimes once a month they'll show, okay, here's the ideas that came in, and here's the status, and here's the ones we implemented. So that people, as we mentioned earlier, don't think that they're being ignored. They can see it visibly. So now in business, it's a bit like in a relationship, you know, one shucks, you know, it takes a lot of attaboys to make up for it. It gives companies a chance to build that follow through and the trust and kind of put the bricks in place. So giving visibility to taking action on these things and the follow through kind of builds the trust. So it really helps that. Often talking about trust, I think sometimes there are trust problems that emerge just in the information vacuum, that there are middle level folks but nobody knows.
Yeah. So when there's a goalpost for to go back to your numbers, 800 and quarter, right? And that's crushed and then it is moved to 900. Does that create a lack of trust? Does it make the employees feel like the goalposts have moved to see that kind of an increase? Or does it have to be super transparent, and is that agreed upon by a group of employees? How does that work?
It's important that there's a good bit of visibility with this. I just had this really interesting company in Texas, and they make water tanks for fire trucks. So they're very custom, and we just had this situation happen with this company that the number that they need to produce each week, each month went up. So we were talking about being visible with the folks as they are, because the number of people, the costs involved change that number. If I hire more people, well, of course I should produce more. Why? This makes sense, right? You get 10% more people, I should be producing more, and that kind of thing. And then with these water tanks, the complexity varies quite a bit. So the same production number isn't valid if I'm producing a lot of the easy tanks versus these really complex tanks with all kinds of baffles and different things on them. So, sure. But you just want to communicate that to people up front. And what happens is over time, in the beginning, there's kind of this, I don't know, uneasiness. But then once it plays out, once you go through several cycles, they've gotten a bonus and they begin to, okay, I see what they're saying. Yeah, that's true. And this often happens. There's a bit of a lag between what folks are doing and when it's finished and when the numbers show up. And so over a period of months, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 months, they get greater comfort with, let me explain to you what's going on with the numbers. Let me show you the basic numbers, not all the little details, right? Companies get concerned about showing. No, it's just the basic stuff. And then they see, oh, it does play out. I understand what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So I lost my question.
That happens to me too.
What is something that, because we hear a lot right now in this geopolitical economic climate about inflation, right? About the cost of living and just existing. How can a program like Gainsharing help owners close that gap between what their base pay is, what they know they can afford on the base pay side, and what the employees, the frontline workers, feel they bring as far as value to the table?
That's really a direct hit, the sweet spot of where you want to be. Because if I'm a worker, whether I'm salaried or I'm going to be working a certain predictable number of hours in a week, and I'm going to be there anyway. So if we can say, hey, we have these orders, and if we can take these, we have a backlog, and if we can start tearing into that backlog, and like you can go back to our 800 thing, we have more than 900 a week.
Yes.
And when we start we can take our lead times down, we can fill up that pipeline in the future. I'm not concerned about trying to get 900, 950 or whatever, fine. And then you can translate that to the people and show them, okay, here's how we could do this. And that's really important. So as you go back through the process, you're saying, okay, we've been doing 800, 8.25. I'm trying to get 950. Here are the jobs. And based on the basic milestones in the process, we can show that this is very doable with the machine rates and the jobs. That's really important. Because the first thing goes on, and people say, we can't do that. No, actually, we've already done this. We just need to do it now. And you want to show them in their area that this is very, and then, baby, the fire starts. And it's kind of fun, with machinist kind of people, and I'm really just sticking up to them today. And welders, there's a pride there. And it's fun to kind of like tap into it, saying, okay, here's what you did last week, but you did these other weeks, you hit these big, could you do that now? Get out of the way. Let me show you how. Right. It's just fun, right? And it's fun for them. And they want to dive into that and show they can hit these numbers. And then they'll tell you, well, if I'm going to hit that number, that stuff needs to be staged over there, and that tooling needs to be ready so I can switch it out and whatever. And now we are playing ball because they're telling you this is what I need. And then they see, well, shucks, I was thinking this was going to be an effort thing, but it really wasn't a sweat more thing. I don't know that I sweat more. We just kind of lined up the play like a football team, and we just executed.
Yeah.
Heck, we should do this all the time. That's where the fun really comes in. So for the management, it is a great way to get more throughput from their people in the time that they're going to be there anyway. And it's a win for everybody. And then, as we've said, they see, well, this is pretty straightforward. We should do this all the time. And now things are changed. And then it's really about making that simple and easy. And it takes a little while to work that out of, there's 10 things we need to do and 3 of them are a bunch of work. How can we simplify this? But then it just becomes easier. I was talking about this in a meeting and I asked them, I said, before Gainsharing, people often ask, isn't this going to be a bunch of extra work? And I said, do you think it's extra work? Because they paid like 10 out of the 12 months in the past year. And this one manager, he laughed. He says, no. He says, left. He says, you're not chasing squirrels. And I just love that phrase. Because, if you've been, that's what it's like. He says, that's where you lose your time. When you just don't have to do that. You lay out what we need to do, and then the people tear into it. And yeah. So it really is the sweet spot. And for many companies, they're not in a situation where they don't have work. Sometimes, that happens. But that's not really their big problem now. And I've seen this over and over throughout my career. I've pulled the work forward on the schedule to get the bigger number, and I've never had that bite me. It's funny how it creates a vacuum or whatever, and work jumps in. And of course, you have economic downturns, right? I'm not trying to say, but that just works so well. And that's really the key, is showing people, okay, overall, this is what we need, and we have it. And then I can break it down into the areas, and it becomes a game that they're playing to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, and I think that using this as an additional incentive rather than a part of base pay, right, is a big driver for people. When they know, okay, I make $27 an hour. Let's just throw out a number, right? I make $27 an hour. I know that through this gain sharing model, that base pay is not necessarily going to be affected, but what I can make at the end of the quarter, month, year, whatever time frame that they're incentivizing, I'll have this much more money if we all row in the same direction. And I think that would help with holding each other accountable on the shop floor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they go walking over.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to have this done here. You said you want it there. Do you still need that? Is that what you need, or you need something else? Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's good too. And they're doing it because they want to. Yeah. And then it's a personal connection there. It's a promise between these people. Yeah, that adds to it too. It's not just all about that little money thing, as you're pointing to. Those people connection things, that's a big part of the rewards that people get. Is others are dependent on me, and I delivered on, and I communicated, and sometimes I think the bonus is kind of a trophy. It's proof, right? You can tell people at home, hey, we're gonna, but when you bring that bonus home and you lay it down, I said we were gonna win, and we won. Yeah. There you baby.
And it creates that culture of winning in a way that may not already exist on that shop floor.
Exactly.
I dig it a lot.
Yes, they do. They do. And that's a big thing because, people, they want to win. They get up in the morning to perform and do exciting things in the world. They want that. Now, of course, there are some people that they love the routine, and that's what they want. And God bless those people, right? Because we need those too.
We need them too.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, and so that is true, and it is exciting, but it fulfills a winner needs that, and they'll go where they can get it. If they have this humdrum job, eventually they're just going to be uncomfortable and leave. Yeah. So providing that, yes, it provides that feeling of winning, that pride. This is who I am. And then also connecting those products to how they're used in the world. I know I just can't resist if I'm going through Walmart or whatever with my family and I say, hey, that's my client right there. The Monopoly, the people that Hasbro that make Monopoly, one of the coolest moments was going through where they print the money and they have these stacks of orange and red, and it's just this play money, Yeah. But, awesome. Being able to show the employees that what you're doing just isn't some humdrum routine. You are connected to the world, and folks depend on you. Here's where these parts fit on these Caterpillar operations that are building. You are part of this. Yeah, that's powerful.
I dig it. I like it a lot. All right, Chuck, what haven't I asked you that you want to share with the audience?
Well, companies think often that they have motivation problems or productivity problems. Really, what they have is a pay time problem. They have an alignment of their rewards with what the company's trying to achieve. And when we get things into alignment, the productivity and the behaviors, the attitudes, the culture, it all improves automatically. There's so many problems that just disappear. And often companies will think that they don't have what it takes to get this into alignment, and I've never found that to be the case. They're probably closer than they realize to having what they need, and these problems can go away when they get things into alignment.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Chuck, Dr. Chuck Day DeBettignies. Sorry, I forgot. I forgot the spaghetti. Thank you very much for being part of this episode, for being part of this journey that I'm on to make the workplace more human. I can see a lot of validity in the gain sharing for the audience. Check it out. Chuck, where can they find you? Where can they get more information?
Well, you can find us at Gainsharing.com. But I've put together a little offer. I recently finished a book, The Gainsharing Revolution. Yeah. And if you go, and I'd like to offer this to the viewers as a free book. You pay the shipping offer, so a free book.
Oh, wow.
And so if you go to Gainsharing.com/free book, yeah, be happy to send you out a free copy. And it gets into these details.
I love it. That's great. Everybody, pick up a copy of the book and then let Chuck know what you think and how you can implement this in your shop, in your company, in your facility, whatever it is. Chuck, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate your time. Dear audience, thank you for being here and learning about the ways to make work more human. If you like this show, please take 2 seconds, like and review it on whatever platform that you're on. Tell me I want a free book. It's not for my ego. It's not for Chuck. It's to make sure that more people find this show and they learn about gain sharing in this instance. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here. We like messy stories. If you have any messy stories about your world of work, please send them my way. I'll find an expert to come on and we can help solve that problem. Until next time, let's all work, but make it human.
Thank you, Jim.